Okay.
Click.
I clicked it. I clicked it.
No, what I'm doing is actually instructing everybody here to click.
Shut up. Man.
What? It wasn't for you. Really, what we talk about is clicking.
I click all the time. I click the mouse. I click the keyboard. I click the...
I don't know what's happening. Now I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can't hear you at all now. This is fantastic.
Oh, Lord. You can't hear me?
Something happened with my Bluetooth. Give me a second.
I
don't know what's happening. Oh, I can hear you. What? You just let me go on and do that? You're the worst. You're the worst. Blake, this is the worst podcast co-host ever.
I'm the worst. Why? Because I forget things and I don't tell you about cool stuff.
You trick the listeners. You don't know who Dr. Regulus is.
I know. And then the director of the movie that we were just talking about is calling me now.
Are you kidding?
I'm not joking. He's calling. He knows our
Travis
schedule.
Knows,
he knows our schedule.
Travis knows that we record this. Travis Webb, co-author
of
Starlight, called us 2 times ago when we were doing this podcast at the exact same time. He knows exactly when we record.
He wants to be on the show
bad. This is pure insanity.
I know.
Like, you cannot keep things straight. You have no idea how to promote our podcast.
I know.
You don't know who Dr. Regulus is.
I don't know who Dr. Regulus is. And
you don't know that he first appeared in Adventure Comics 348.
That's true.
You don't know that Jim Shooter created him.
Ow.
And George Papp drew him the first time. But, I mean, I wish you knew these things. I don't think that Jim Shooter created him, but it says he did. Okay. I guess Jim Shooter had started in 348.
We can ask him at SummerCon. Hey, Jim, did you create him?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's a good point. So at SummerCon, do you even know the dates of SummerCon?
I don't, but I'm pretty sure I could look them up on all their posts on Facebook or Instagram.
Because if you're not invited to a show, you don't know when it happens. So I get it. Right? Because you just completely disregard when those things happen.
Oh, my gosh.
So Greg's not invited, so I don't care when it's happening. It's June 21st to the 23rd at the Puyallup Fairgrounds. I don't know why we're promoting the show, because we definitely weren't invited, and we're not going to necessarily be there. But we are going to be there because Greg and I are going on a day. I'm going to guess we will probably both take Friday off because you would probably need to help with the store on the weekend. Yeah. So we will probably use our massive amounts of vacation time from our jobs, take Friday off, go to SummerCon, and we are going to track down Jim Shooter because I have some things to say to that man.
Yep. Things to say.
Which are, hi, Mr. Shooter, will you please sign this book here with Farrellette on it? Thank you.
And I'll bring a copy of his Grimbor-looking novel.
We have to buy that.
Can you sign this for me, sir?
You know he's gonna charge, right? Like we're gonna have to pay for that, right?
I'll pay for it in laughter.
Okay, so what we need is I'm gonna bring the first appearance of the Fatal Five, right? And then we're gonna also bring the book, and then we have to bring a Grimbor comic book.
A Grimbor comic book, yes.
Yeah, and I'm going to lose all my nerve when I get up there. It's going to be like, oh, Mr. Shooter, hi, you're so nice. I'm so glad you contributed all these great things to comics history, like destroying the Marvel Universe. I mean, writing the Legion of Superheroes and giving us a great revival. So you're going to be recording the short for those, right?
Sure, yeah.
We're definitely going to be recording some shorts for that for YouTube. So if you know what, there's honestly not a really good reason to follow us on YouTube if you're just following us on the podcast, unless you just want to go to YouTube and increase our likes, support the podcast that way, which would be fantastic. But if you did want to go to Funny Book Forensics on YouTube, we are there. But I guarantee in June there is going to be some shorts published because we're going to go meet Jim Shooter.
And I'll probably be wearing shorts.
Pow pow! Pew pew!
Pew pew! Pew pew!
Oh, I mean, if we don't go in shorts and a hoodie and our hats, then we're not representing the Northwest.
That's true.
I mean, a hoodie and cargo shorts is a Northwest tuxedo
and
for people that don't know.
Maybe I'll wear a Utilikill.
There'll be no Crocs. No, but you can bring a fanny pack.
I got a ton.
Yeah, I know you get that. I may even have to borrow one from the jiu-jitsu lawyer.
There you go. I know he's got a few too.
And what I'm going to say is, too, Jim Shooter's thing here is ridiculous, right? It says he's former Marvel Comics editor-in-chief, Avengers, Marvel Secret Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Valiant, which he did work for. There's no mention of the Legion of Superheroes, the book that got his start.
Wow. Huh.
How arrogant must you be not to list the book he went back to that gave him his start?
Interesting.
I mean, Jim Shooter, fine man. All the great things he created. I can't wait to go meet him.
Yes.
It's going to be the moment of my life and his, quite frankly. He's going to meet the creators of Funny Book Forensics. I mean, Greg and I were talking off the air. This show's going to happen before we post this podcast, so it doesn't matter. I'm not even going to reference the show, but Greg doesn't even get me booked into shows in the local area. He's not. So our one fan, this is the important thing. Our one fan, Greg, is trying to keep you as the only fan of this podcast.
I mean,
So what I would tell everybody is don't promote the podcast. Don't don't give us 5-star reviews. Just go on like life never happened.
That's what I tell people.
It's good. Yeah, it's like the podcast doesn't really exist. It
only
exists.
It's like the side thought.
It's the afterthought.
It's an us thing, Dan. It's just us talking. Just like
it's
normal.
just us talking. It doesn't really exist. The only things that really exist are things like Absolute Zeros, Camp Launchpad. That's the only thing that exists, which you can now buy on pre-sale on Amazon. There'll be a link on this podcast. In fact, Absolute Zeros, fine book. Gabriel Gomez on art. Right? It's fantastic. You can buy it. In fact, if you buy the hardcover, you'll get a signed MXPX CD.
You know what's funny? I'm going to say...
With everything.
Every time you say MXPX,
you also get some cordyceps.
It pops up in my Facebook, and now I have like 10
That's awesome.
MXPX like groups and other things. It is infiltrating my Facebook feed with MXPX.
You know what? That's perfect. It's infiltrating you just like mushroom zombies. In fact, those cordyceps, those mushrooms that created the zombies in The Last of Us, they'll also have those embedded in every copy in the book, assuredly to turn you into a mindless, non-thinking zombie that just seeks out human flesh.
Like Ric Flair's energy drink, right?
Right. So with every purchase of the hardback version, and those mushrooms will smell like vanilla cupcakes. So I guarantee if you buy one of Greg and Michael Tanner and Gabriel Gomez's books, you indeed will turn into a zombie.
I don't think that's going to happen, but...
Yep, that's exactly going to happen.
Oh, boy. Well, hopefully the boys from Junior Braves can be there to help you out.
No, they won't be back for another 5 years.
But yeah, no, folks, Gabriel Gomez does amazing art. They did a post up for page and on Instagram, and it shows her process. It is really good.
Yeah, well, we are in Legion of Superheroes 286, and we have some Pat Broderick art, which is not. I'm sorry, Pat. It's good, but it's probably not as good as Gabriel Gomez. But if Gabriel Gomez drew in the Bronze Age, then it might look like this, actually. So, I mean, I don't want to make comparisons because art has certainly changed in comic books since the Bronze Age. We definitely got some unfair treatment because we got a backup story with Keith Giffen and Larry Maldstedt, and it was really cool art. I will say Broderick's faces are probably a little bit better than Giffen's, though, in some respects. Because Giffen, as we pointed out last issue, and you'll see some more as we get further, sometimes just gets bored in a panel and decides not to draw a face.
It's like the back
I guess
of the head.
Faces are to Giffen as feet are to Liefeld.
Oh.
Except Keith Giffen could actually draw faces.
He could draw faces.
So I don't know that Liefeld can draw feet. And honestly, if you look on the feet on this cover, maybe feet are difficult to draw. Like,
I don't know. There's 4 feet.
Yeah, we got some entangled feet.
Yeah.
Well, we've got Dr. Regulus is hot to kill, and we've got Legion of Superheroes 286. I like this cover.
It's a good cover. It's got a lot going on.
Yeah, well, we've got Shrinking Violet, Lightning Lad, Superboy, Dream Girl, and Chameleon Boy all knocked out in the background.
Are they knocked out or are they dead?
And we've got Dr. Regulus in his new golden armor here with a headlock on Sunboy.
Whoa. Sunboy.
Yeah, what's? I wonder why this guy is so mad. I mean,
I don't know.
We haven't heard about him at all.
Find out. Dr. Gregulus? Gregulus?
Yeah. No, it's not Dr. Gregulus. No, Dr. Gregulus would have forgotten to show up with his friends.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting roasted so bad.
So,
Dan's
it's definitely not Dr. Gregulus.
Oh, Dan.
So, yeah, I know. It happens. Sometimes we're forgetful. But I can tell you that this is 1982, and Dr. Gregulus first appeared in 1966 in Adventure Comics 248. And we learned all about Sunboy's origin back then. And maybe we'll talk about that as we go through the issue, because we're going to see how well Paul Levitz brings back an old villain and kind of tells you why that's important. I guess I would say, too, as we get into this is another housekeeping issue. So we sort of have almost 3 housekeeping issues in a row. We are in the era, I think, and not Giffen, but Paul Levitz, remember, he said none of this was meant to be read in order, like a trade, right? And so, the first 3 issues are really single issue stories.
Just stand on their own. With
subplots going on in the background to keep you coming back, right?
They do tie together. We pick up a little bit of a plot from issue 1 into issue 2, and it looked like there was a little setup in issue 2 that seemed like it was going to come into issue 3.
But this one starts with a scene that we will see often in the 90s when we get Jeff Moy drawing the Legion, which was known as the Archie Legion. But we get a volleyball game and they're all in swimsuits.
Okay, I feel that vibe. Yeah.
And Saturn Girl didn't have to change clothes at all
because she's in her normal gear.
She wore her normal uniform. We have Phantom Girl with still the same. It's interesting. She's got like a underwear version of her main costume, kind of. It looks like we have Sunboy because he's the only one with. Well, I guess we got the 2 gingers there. We got Lightning Lad and Sunboy, but one is in blue trunks and one is in red trunks, so we know who's who.
Yeah.
I think we figured out who Colossal Boy is.
Yeah.
He's very tall.
Very tall.
And he's cheating at volleyball, and they're all very mad at him.
Bam!
And we get a title called Old Friends, New Relatives, and Other Corpses.
Whoa.
So, okay.
Oh,
yeah. So we get it's boys versus girls in volleyball, and Colossal Boy goes tall and spikes the ball down at Phantom Girl, who's not really happy with that.
Yeah.
And then we see Dawnstar fly up, and they all kind of Lilliputian Colossal Boy.
Yeah.
They knock him over. I think that's kind of hilarious because he may not be the brightest bulb there. But Superboy happens to be flying by, and he lifts him back up. So there we go.
He's uplifting.
He is. It's always, look, honestly, it is always uplifting to see Superboy. and what I mean is Superman when he was a boy.
Superman when he was a boy.
Not Connell.
Not Connell. Yeah, different.
It's not necessarily always uplifting to see him.
Oh.
So we get into this, and there's always, we're not going to try to read all of the dialogue in these books because we would be here for 4 or 5 hours. But as we get to the next page, we get to see Levitz once again pulling the threads out of the previous story arcs that he wants to keep. And so he grabs one from Secrets of the Legion number 3, where it's revealed that Legion benefactor R.J. Brand is the father of Chameleon. And R.J. Brand is actually also from the planet Durla, where shape changers are. But we find out in that story that R.J. Brand is locked in this shape that he's in now due to a fever that he got. And so it's just it was one of those stories where when it was written, people were like, "What? You know, this is a weird reveal."
He's stuck in this shape.
Yeah. But I like what Levitz starts to do with this, and we'll get to see it in the issue, because Levitz takes this weird reveal and kind of applies it to the characters like the fans felt.
Okay.
And so we get it, but it's one of those Greg writing tips, right? put the characters in a situation you wouldn't expect and see what happens. Right. Well, what would happen if you found out that your dad started a superhero group just so he could find you and then didn't talk to you for 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, we find out on the next page. You're kind of chapped.
Yeah. Well, next couple pages, he's pretty mad, right? But we find out the Legionnaires are all partying on his private planetoid. So RJ Brand is so rich that he has his own planet, basically, little miniature planet. Well, I don't know, but we're about to get to find out about Dr. Regulus's intentions really quickly, because he is not secret about his intentions. There's no subterfuge here. Like, it is.
He wants to kill all these kids. I mean,
well, on the way to the island, we've got Dr. Regulus sailing in his gold boat. Mm-hmm. I mean, his golden spaceship flying to the planetoid. Yeah. And we find out that this guy is, he's disturbed.
A little bit. He's a little off.
He wants to kill Dirk Morgana. That's Sunboy's name.
Okay.
And he's like, I should have killed him when I had the chance. Gotten my revenge simply. But no, I had to be theatrical. Locking him in a nuclear reactor was such a more appropriate doom. I had only known it would have turned him to Sunboy. So they give the origin right there. Dr. Regulus did something wrong. Sunboy told his dad, and then in their engineering plant or whatever, wherever they made things, he locked him in a nuclear thing, and he got the power of super radiance. Originally, that was all Sunboy could do, was just be super radiant. I see. They sort of expanded his power set a little bit over the years, which is probably a good thing. But literally, if you go back to the 1960s comic books, it says his superpower is super radiance.
Super radiance.
Is that like radians, or is that like sunshine?
He's just he just like expels sunshine.
He's a bright guy.
He's a bright guy. He is the brightest bulb in the box. The shiniest coin in the machine.
I believe his character history doesn't show out to that later on, but we'll go for that. But we find out Dr. Regulus can really heat things up as he melts the controls.
Can't fix that.
He's talking. He's gonna burn the boy, he says. So now we flip the page, and we have RJ Brand taking Chameleon Boy and heading off into the woods. What, you're not gonna touch that?
When I read this, I was like, okay, here, this guy, he just wants to find his son. He's having this moment. And I connected with this whole entire moment as like, hey, they had this bad time, right? And here his dad just like, hey, I want to try to make things right. And, let's talk and stuff like that. And his son is like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna transform and leave.
Yeah. Well, and I actually, like, in all seriousness, again, I was talking about Levitz picking up plot threads, right? Like, the fans, the whole reveal went over at the fans like a lead balloon, right? Like, that didn't go over well. And then I think, he brings it, he keeps the mythos there, right? And he doesn't retro-boot the whole thing. And then he brings it in. And, I think, if your dad was running a superhero group or any company and brought you in and then didn't tell you and then suddenly tells you, like, it's revealed to you, I think you might react like this. I could totally see somebody being really upset.
I mean, it's you see stories like this. I mean, fictional stories, real stories where kids are shipped off to like boarding schools and come there. It's expected they're going to take over the business, and they reject it and they want to strike out on their own and do their own thing. I'm not referring to the Gilmore Girls and anything that happens in there, not at all. But I mean, nothing that happens in season 7 of the Gilmore Girls at all happens at all in this story.
Okay, well, anyway.
But
and for all of you that have gotten to season 7 of the Gilmore Girls, which I haven't gotten to season 1 and don't ever
you
plan
should.
to.
It's so fantastic.
Oh, God.
It is actually really good. So, you'd actually like it. You should.
I think I'll continue my rewatch of Star Trek: The Next Generation instead.
I'm telling you, man. It's punchy. It's punchy dialogue. It's really it's fast paced and fun.
Look, is it as good as Locutus saying sleep and Dr. Crusher going, he's exhausted.
You might be surprised. Well, anyway. No, but
anyway, in the comic,
in seriousness though, this whole entire scene plays out, and RJ is like, hey, I just wanna make things right, and he's left just with this, don't go, don't leave. I'm gonna be left alone. And it tears at you, because that is, it is a very real moment.
Yeah, and we've been talking about Levitz giving personalities to each of the individual characters. And, we probably get now more personality out of Chameleon Boy and RJ Brand than we ever have in the entire history of the book, dating back to its origin in 1958, right? Like, so Chameleon Boy gets definitely more of a personality here, right? Like, you're seeing some stuff, and you're seeing, like, a teenager sort of reacting to this, right? And late teens, right? Early 20s, but still, I think, this reaction is like, I can't deal with this. And then RJ Brand actually has, instead of just being the rich monopoly man that gave the Legion money so they could run, he's now has some depth of character. So probably a good plot thread for Levitz to grab, to give both characters some depth.
Yeah, it gives them that the agency that they need.
And then things, skies turn red, and of course, if in DC Comics, when skies turn red, that is a crisis.
I'm picking it up.
But we didn't know in 1982 that was a crisis yet. We're not quite there.
Not right there.
But yeah, so skies are turning red, and things are about to blow up, literally.
Yeah. Bad news.
And here comes Dr. Regulus popping out of a ship.
It's like melting.
I also like how he's melting stuff, and he has these cool weapons, but then he just lands his gold boat on the planetoid and then jumps out right in front of everybody.
He's like, "Wah!"
Like, I'll get you. And he's like, I have the power of Brandy's fusion generator crackling in the palm of my hand. I think one of the other things, you talk about learning from comics, by the way, like, I don't know if the rest of the world did, but I learned about the difference between nuclear fission and nuclear fusion reading Legion of Superheroes comic books.
It makes sense, because they do a good job at, like, kind of explaining things in comics. They gotta, like, bring it down to a base level, but to build it up so that you understand it.
Well, and fusion power spheres from this point, too, become a thing. So they basically use fusion spheres to power the Earth.
Yeah.
And we still haven't mastered a fusion sphere yet, at least for practical purposes, right? Like, I know they've created them before, but I actually sat next to a guy on an airplane, like, 10 years ago that was working on fusion spheres.
They're trying. They tried to create a galaxy in a lab. It was unstable. Didn't work.
But, if you could create containable fusion, it would definitely power a lot of the Earth.
It could, but it'd also be unstable.
This fusion, only if Dr. Regulus comes and makes it unstable.
That's true. There's a lot of things that work in theory.
But Dr. Regulus has his cool gold armor on, and he says some red solar rays at Sunboy or at Superboy and takes him out, because of course Superboy has no powers under a red sun. We all know that, right?
Done. He's out of the picture on the bench.
And then Phantom Girl's like, haha, you didn't get me, and then she just runs away.
Gone out.
Yeah, I don't know what her plan is here, right? Like, but anyway, he doesn't knock out Sunboy because, he wants to kill him. Didn't he literally just say, I don't want to be theatrical again?
Yeah, no, he doesn't want to be theatrical again, but he is being very theatrical with this.
He is extremely theatrical. Well, we're now 56 million miles away, and we are back on Earth. And we've got Block, Ultra Boy, Light Lass, Timberwolf, Starboy, and Shrinking Violet standing around.
Yeah.
Wait, on the cover, wasn't Shrinking Violet somewhere else?
I think she was on the ground.
She was with Dr. Regulus. Well, yeah. I
They probably said these are all the characters in the book.
Yeah, a criticism of the Broderick covers, right? And it's like, Levitz does a good job of dividing the team up into segments so you can start to learn them. Yeah. The cover teams should really match what's inside the pages for that consistency.
Yeah. I mean, they probably get a note that says these are the characters in the book, and they're just told, draw, come up with something, be inspired. They just go to town. I
think they do. They end up getting better at this over time, though. So. Yeah. And by the way, I forgot to mention that Paul Levitz is the writer of this. Pat Broderick and Bruce Patterson are on art. John Constanza on letters. I don't know D'Angela's first name, but is the colorist. And Mike W. Barr, creator of Batman and the Outsiders, is the editor. And, of course, Mike W. Barr clearly stole all of his work from Bob Kane, the only creator of Batman. Right? He was the only one. He didn't... Yeah, he had all of his fingers
in all the Batman.
See? Yeah.
There's been no other Batman creators since that have created any Batman.
No, or with him, right? Like nobody else had their finger on Batman. Yeah, see what I did there? What you're doing, maybe. I was trying to redeem myself for my earlier rant. It's not working.
No. No.
Well, anyway, I'll just get back to what terrible things will happen to people if they buy your book. So,
oh my goodness!
Now we're back here, and we have Chameleon Boy shows back up, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am the permanent leader of the Espionage Squad," which is true. Yes. The Espionage Squad is kind of cool. It was, I think I was talking about an episode ago, maybe. You were. Yeah. But it was a way to take some of the lesser powered characters, right? And give them stuff to do.
Suicide Squad, right?
No. Not like the Suicide Squad at all. They're supposed to be like subterfuge, right?
No, they had crossed out espionage and put in suicide.
So, yeah.
Which I found funny.
Oh, yeah.
Because they put them into bad situations. So.
But we've got... he just comes in and he, grabs Timberwolf?
Yeah. Timberwolf.
And Shrinking Violet.
Okay.
Now, Shrinking Violet makes sense. Espionage Squad. Timberwolf?
I mean, he's Timberwolf. He's a wild card.
He's very subtle.
Yeah. He's a wild card, man.
Known for his subtlety.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly who I'd grab on a mission.
He's who you want with you for those types of things.
And then we do find out there's a message coming in from Karate Kid to hold you on for another plot point we're going to get in the backup story. And now we get some Super Radiance.
Yeah.
And, and this Super Radiant, actually, I do like page 12. And by the way, did you know when the comic has page numbers, I can actually refer the listener to the page where action is going on.
Again, page numbers are a choice.
Actually, what's interesting? What? You were probably so wrapped up in working and promoting the book that you just forgot about the page numbers. And I get that. It's easy to forget about things when you're really busy and you're working on other stuff.
Sometimes when your artist is so much into creating their art, putting a page number at the bottom of the page just doesn't really jive with the vibe.
I get it. I mean, really creative, great artists and great writers, they don't have time to think about things like page numbers. Those are things that wash out.
Yeah, you can count.
Yeah. They wash out like podcast promotion. It's things that drop to the bottom of the bucket. Do, yeah. It's just a good. Yeah. So we get this really cool page here of Sunboy and Dr. Regulus fighting. Yeah. And Dr. Regulus is all torch looking, except he's pink, like Human Torch looking. He's pink.
Fighty.
And Sunboy is all super radiant.
Super radiant.
Like, legitimately. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Regulus is talking a bunch of smack.
He is.
He's like, feel the heat of the fire of the smashing atoms. You say you're immune to it, boy. But are you really? He's like, and Sunboy's like, yes, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
And so Sunboy beats him up, some Dr. Regulus. And, we get sizzle sound effects. Sunboy's melting stuff.
It's hot.
He's going to go, and he's like, now we get some characterization from Sunboy, which we haven't really had a lot of. And he said, I'm not sure how I pulled that off, but it looks like Regulus will be out for a few minutes, which means it's an exit time for Sunboy. So we get him, maybe not the best line, but he says, on cue, Dirk Morgan, nuclear physicist. It's been years since I was my dad's assistant in the research lab. So Levitz takes these threads from the historical pieces of the Legion, right, and pulls them back in there to help give the character some characterization. Right. So he's like, well, Sunboy isn't just this dumb idiot playing volleyball who lights up like a light bulb. Yeah. He was working with his dad to be a nuclear physicist apprentice, right? So, wow, he probably knows something about nuclear power and probably can solve the problem, right, with the reactor.
He knows a thing about a thing or two.
And he's just going to try at least, right? And then, but we get Dr. Regulus going, ha ha ha! He's going to succeed in ensuring my success.
Oh.
Of all the Legionnaires, he was the only one that could stand against me. But no man can deactivate the dome. So we'll find out. And we get back, and now I think Regulus is probably a little bit over it because, I mean, I'm thinking Saturn Girl probably could, like, telepathically shut off his mind if she really wanted to. Yeah. I mean, I don't. He's getting a little cocky.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sure Lightning Lad probably could short out his armor.
Could.
So, those things probably could happen, but, we get back to the main thing and we get a quick recap. So Saturn Girl gets caught up to date. Mm-hmm. And she's like brought into the situation immediately. I don't know what's going on at your house.
What do you mean?
Like, I can literally hear everything that's going on in the background.
Can you hear the TV in the background?
It sounds like a TV is going on in the background at your house. Well, anyway, because see, when we're, well, that'll be fun to edit out later. So
Grandma's
we're here.
Got the TV up.
I know. It's fantastic. You know what? This podcast is just destined for fun.
It is destined for fun. Whoa, yeah!
Every time you click, too, it's right there. There you go. I thought you said no soundboard.
I'm sorry, but it's happening
the piss out of me today. So anyway, it looks like we get like a nuclear storm going on, and we do find where Phantom Girl ran away. She's in there trying to figure out how to solve the problems with that. And here comes Superboy. He's apparently recovered from his red sun bath. But then he gets in there and he's like, wow, this feels worse than kryptonite. It burns. And there's Sunboy, and he's taking over the controls, and he's actually moving those rods around. So a little like, was this before? This was before Chernobyl, right?
Probably.
But yeah, anyway, he moves some rods around. I don't think that's quite how nuclear fusion works. More like nuclear fission works, but, we'll forgive them this time. Yeah. Sunboy stops the dome from glowing up, and we get our big fight scene right in the story. So we got that, and then they all go take out Dr. Regulus. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a fun little story with the action happening, where we also get advancement of the subplots, right?
Yeah.
And you learn more about Sunboy. And we got to see all the Legionnaires posing in their suits. Yeah. And you're right. We get next issue, and it has espionage crossed out, and it says save the Suicide Squad.
See? I wasn't.
Plus the backup story, plus the beginning of a new danger, prologue to darkness. I wonder what that could be about.
Oh.
Well, anyway. And Lightning Lad's all mad, by the way, because they figure out Chameleon Boy left.
Yeah. Left.
Well, we're about to get our backup story, A Crown for the Princess, but I, of course, want to pay attention to
letters page.
Yes.
Do you have a letter that you want to chat?
Well, I mean, these ones seemed kind of lame to me. Like, it was like, hey, the old fans got to cheer about the Reflecto saga. Though we did get a really, really long letter from Sarah Greenblatt from Elmhurst, New York. 92 through 42 52nd Avenue. Now, I guess that's 92/42. I'm not really sure how that works. Or does she just have all the properties from address 92 to address 42? Or
maybe she's just saying that she's like, she just doesn't want people to come find her. So she's just like, I'm here between this point to this point.
Yeah.
Pre-doxing, but doxing.
Well, anyway, yeah, I mean, these folks kind of say they liked the end of the story, but I think that they cherry-picked these letters because all the other letter columns we were seeing, they hated the story a lot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe they got tired of doxing the old, you said doxing. Doxing's not the right word. Attacking the old creative crew. So, I don't know. Well, we get a new story. We get Paul Levitz writer Keith Giffen on penciling, and Bruce Patterson inking him, not Maldstedt. But I still like it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, is it not night and day? I realize we're back on Orlando, right? The backwards world. Oh, by the way, Adam Kubert lettering again. We mentioned him. Gene D'Angelo. Hey, they give us a name. Mike W. Barr editing the backup story. We get Val Armour was born on Earth, son of a villain, trained from birth to be a hero. And he was son of the Black Dragon, by the way.
I'm gonna say too, I like one of the things I love about these books from this era is the lettering is done. It's all by hand.
Is real?
It's by hand.
Yeah.
So you're not looking at something done in like Photoshop and then dropped in, and it's.
Well, and we also get the big crown for a princess thing. That was that even done by the letterer, or was that done by Giffen?
That's a good question. It depends. Like, who knows? But it's
letterers usually create the logos, so it probably could have been. It's what I've learned from Todd Klein's Facebook page, which is fantastic. Everyone should follow it. But yeah, it's, I don't know. So here's what's stunning about this page, right? Like, I'm immediately distracted by the ornate background.
Oh yeah, no, everything on this page, like the depth and stuff like that, because it's very layered with all the different stuff and the what do you want to call it? It's not that it's you're looking at it and it's a straight shot, but there's so much depth in this, and it's flat.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, we turn the page again, and it's like, again, not trying to pick on Pat Broderick, right? Because Pat Broderick is a fine. And when I say the word serviceable artist, I don't mean it as an insult at all. Like, Pat Broderick's a super accomplished artist, right? But I turn the page and I'm like, I'm just staring at the art. And we weren't doing that with the rest of the book.
No, because it's very intricate. Everything on here is done with a very delicate touch.
Also, I think with Giffen too, you can see why he burned himself out as an artist at various times, because, geez, that had to take a minute to draw. We get a lot of white backgrounds.
But I mean, the suits of armor that the diocese they're on, or well, whatever.
I don't even know what those creatures are called. Yeah.
The I guess the stage with the ornate item in the back, but it's just very everything there is so detailed.
Well, and I think too, like, again, I told you, like, we'd turn the page last issue and I'd be like, oh, that's the 30th century I remember. We really turned the page in this issue and I'm like, that's the art that I remember, right? I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah, no. It is very...
And honestly, in all fairness to Giffen, right? Like, I think, like, and Broderick, I think Broderick's faces might be a little bit better, right?
Yeah, no, they're...
But everything else is better with Giffen.
These are the types of faces that when I was a kid, I would trace, and I would trace a face or trace something like this. And, like, I would take my time and trace stuff like this. And people were like, oh, you're a really good artist. And I'm like, I can't draw it. I can trace stuff,
Yeah, and now what I will say, too, I said I don't want to pick on Giffen's faces either, because when he chooses, like, the focus, the focus scenes on the faces are very detailed and very clear. It's just like he'll take panels off from faces, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Or he'll obscure them, right? So he can focus on the background. But this sequence we get... So we found out last issue that her dad, King Vox, right, died, and now Vox V, and now is it Vox V or is it Vox V? Vox V, or is it Vox the Fifth? Like, I'm not really.
I don't know. Vox the Fifth sounds about right, but maybe Vox the Fifth.
I don't know. VOXV. You all can tell us leave us some feedback. You can tell us how to pronounce that name. But we get now Queen Projectra here being in her coronation, And we get that big ornate scene with that thing that looks like the time trapper in the background. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But it's all good, and she's not very happy to be the queen. And we get another page, which is fantastic. So it's like they're almost like floating on a, I guess what would you call it, a stage, so to speak. But we get these circle panels with them looking at each other and discussing what's happening. And she's like, I need you to be with me, my consort, right? And I don't think she says consort in that scene, but it's the idea. And then it kind of fades out, and they're looking at each other, and he's like, I'll stay as long as you need me. So that's where we're getting. That's probably why he radioed in, right? Because he's like, hey, I've got to stay here because this stuff happened. Radioed in.
Yeah.
Like, sent a message across the galaxy.
He FaceTimed him.
And here, Prince Ferox jumps in, and he's like, yep, I'm going to take you all out. And we do get some pretty good faces here. I like the Ferox face in the bottom panel. Yeah. And more than the projector face, honestly. Like, I think he does a great job with the beards. And later on, Starboy's about to get a beard really soon, so we'll see him doing more with beards.
He's got really good texture.
And he throws a sword down, and he's like, I'm going to take everybody out. And right away, Karate Kid uses his power of super karate. Yeah, super karate. Sure. Do you know what his power is?
What is his power, Dan?
Well, I ask you if you know.
Don't.
Super karate. I mean, there's speculation that his power was to find weak points and everything. Okay. So, I mean, people have tried to retro in their head. So, like, Karate Kid joins the Legion because he fights Superboy to a standstill, which is not realistically believable. Okay. So the argument is, like, he's honed the fighting, like, a gazillion fighting skills, different fighting styles from across the galaxy, and that's basically right. So, like, every Legionnaire is supposed to hold a superpower, but he really doesn't. I will say, like, he's brought in I think 66 or 67. Didn't I just say the other book was 66 with Dr. Regulus? So right in there. So it's an interesting thing because Jim Shooter introduces the character. So they introduced what they called the Doomed Legionnaires, and there were 4 characters, which we had one which was a traitor. So, he's written out of the book, Nemesis Kid, as if you couldn't guess Nemesis Kid was going to be the traitor.
Sounds like a bad guy.
Yeah. And Nemesis Kid, basically, his power is that he can cancel out one other person's power, right? That's facing him. So we've got Karate Kid, who he knows karate, like super karate. We've got Projectra, who can cast illusions, and we had Pharaoh Lad, who could turn into iron, and Pharaoh Lad dies right away, maybe because of another company having a character called Iron Man or something. I don't know. And yeah. But they're kind of called the Doomed Group that Shooter introduces because of what happens to them over their time frame in the books. But lots of them end up dead. Let's just say that.
Except for Karate Kid.
Greg.
I have to say, he's a sick...
I'm going to have to keep reading.
He's a sick dresser.
He is a sick dresser, though. He's going to lose his... collar. He will lose his collar soon.
That butterfly collar.
Yeah, I think Giffen got tired of drawing the collar.
So sweet.
It's cool, and we flip the page, and now he challenges her, right? Mm-hmm. And basically is going to challenge her to a competition. We get some more really cool art of like a Roman kind of Colosseum type thing. The Time Trapper's back with a pronouncement. I don't know. It's not the Time Trapper, by the way, for folks. I'm just joking, but the Time Trapper wears big purple hooded robes, and so I don't know why they would draw somebody that looks just like the Time Trapper.
He's the village crier.
Yeah. But he challenges them, and Projector casts her illusions, and she gets beat really quickly because she's weak, apparently, because she's just a girl. And if you know Legion history, you'll get why I'm saying that, too. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, she's just a girl. I'm saying that's how they treat her now because they reboot the character a few years later, and she becomes, like, uber powerful.
She's like OP.
So, oh, yeah, she becomes super OP, but, like, no joke. Like, but for now, she's not, and so... It's weird for me to sometimes go back and read this story because she's so kind of weak.
Yeah.
Right? And later she just becomes like a beast. So, which makes sense. If you can create realistic illusions, that should be a pretty amazing power, right? But I think they note that he's immune to her power, so that's why that happened. And then he takes out Karate Kid too. He's gotten some extra power somehow, and he's now the king, and he's gonna kill Projector and Karate Kid. Yep. And next issue, we find out Prologue to Darkness. That's the other backup, right? So we're gonna get a story that wraps up this one, and then we're gonna start getting Prologue to Darkness. So yeah, I mean, these are cool. I don't know. I say these are cool. Yeah. I'm starting to get. Are you starting to get excited about the story?
Yeah.
Yet?
No, I'm excited
because it's picking up. Yeah. Right. I told you it'd pick up quickly.
It does. It does pick up, and like the art, like all the action that's in here too. I mean, I love the little like in the panels, the in panel fights and stuff like that. It's very neat. I like the way they decided to do that, and it's a really nice way to put it all together.
And next issue, we're going to get Giffen right off the start, all Giffen art with Patterson.
Oh.
So we're not quite to Giffen and Maldstadt yet, being the permanent group, but we get Bruce Patterson inking Giffen, which I think works. It's fine. Nice. But yeah, you're going to get the big 30th century next. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, I'm pretty excited if you haven't read 287 yet, I'm excited for you to read it.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, so I will read it and get ready.
And the story picks up, and then we get a backup story. And it's weird because the backup story ends up being Broderick and Maldstadt.
Oh, yeah?
Which, yeah. So poor Broderick has moved out to the backups almost immediately.
At least he still has a job.
Yeah, well, I mean, Broderick's doing other stuff at this time too, like Firestorm, and so it's not. Again, it's not, and the Legion is a tough book to draw.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, move them on.
And apparently, have you ever seen a book where they have backup stories and you have to have one letterer for the main story and another letterer for the backup story because Levitz writes such lengthy, wordy scripts?
It's like its own. It is its own comic, so it's a lot.
Well, and we're not, and the interesting part too is we're not, as Giffen and Levitz and Giffen collaborate, it's not going to get any less wordy, because if you've read a Giffen script, you know how wordy those are, right? So it's not like we've got two guys that really like the words in there, but again, it's not like, I swear, it was the Captain America books, right, where we're just like, this is way too much text,
right?
And I don't know. How are you? You said in the last episode you felt like it was the right amount of text. I read these and I fly through reading these, right? Because they're interesting.
Yeah. I feel like it's good. I feel like it's a good amount of words. It's a good amount of art. It all marries up really nicely. I don't feel like it's too much. It's not too heavy on anything. It's not. It's not. It just flows. So, and I think that the story that's in the bubbles and in the text boxes works with the art nicely enough that I'm not taken out of the book at any moment. I'm moving with everything. So I'm not having to sit there and scratch my head like what am I reading and what am I seeing? So
yeah, and I think, and I'll say growing up on the Levitz books too, I think sometimes it caused me not to pay attention to the art as much, right? Like friends that read books knew who all the artists were, and I was like, well, who's the writer? And I think it's because I had these books, right? Like where the art, and to Giffen's credit, and later Steve Lytle, and even totally just drew a blank on another artist, but that's okay. I'll remember it later tonight. But looking, it gives credit to the artist too, right? Like their art so seamlessly worked with the text. And I think when you start getting Giffen and Levitz together, right, because they're co-plotting the book with each other, you get that, right? Or Levitz would say, like, he would send something to Giffen, and then Giffen would come back with something that was way better than Levitz thought should be on the page, right? And so when you have that kind of collaboration or working relationship, it can obviously really help.
Yeah, I think when you're working with an artist and you're collaborating enough to make that relationship work, it's seen on the pages, as opposed to I've read books where you don't feel like that's happening, and you don't see that relationship where there's that type of discussion happening. There's not enough of that. There's not enough shared design or shared world building, storytelling. Because, I mean, comics is a visual storytelling path, right? So if you're not telling the story and you're not telling it together, then it's going to be a tough one to sell, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And it's just, it should work seamlessly together, right? That's the point. So, yeah, I mean, I always felt cheated by the books that were just beautiful art but no story, right? I mean, like, should we go pull out our Image collection from 1993?
Where you get some really amazing art and some really great images that just blow your mind, and it seems like they just wrote things over it.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's why so many of those books sold the first like 2 or 3 issues. And then of course they get behind because they were focused so much on the art too, and they'd
we'll
fail.
fill it in later. And I get how that process works. I understand that, but it's hard.
And I also get why they were doing it, because they were really responding to this era of comics, right, where an artist would leave and then the company would be like, well, I can just put any artist on this with this great writer, which was not true. So it was a response to that. Yeah. But you also can't just put a great artist out there and then have, expect people to be able to follow a plot.
Yeah.
Of any sort. And you need that combination, because we're picking up plot points, and also like, Levitz had his giant, notebook on all his characters and everything, and we get to see him pulling plot points from old Legion stories and things back. So he's doing a good being a fan himself, right, of the book, and wanting to get his second shot at writing it, which he got. He's pulling notes in from Legion history that other writers that didn't read those books or follow it wouldn't care to pull in, right? And so he's hooking in the old fans and setting up a visual medium with Giffen that can bring in new fans too at the same time.
And from a writer's perspective, for me, that's like, oh, I want to go back and find out what that is. When I see those notes, it's like, well, what is he referencing? Because now I want to know what that story is, because to me that's interesting. It makes me want to know more.
Well, good news. I know a guy that owns every one of those issues.
Oh, is it Lawyer Paul?
Yeah, it was Jiu-Jitsu Lawyer Paul. No, I think he would like me to burn all of them if I ask him to carry a comic book box again. No, that would be
He's
negative.
Done that how many times now?
He made me carry all of my comics into this house, actually. So he didn't move any of them.
Because he's done it so many times.
He's like, nope.
Not this time, Dan.
Nope. Those are yours. You're going to carry them. So, no, there was no help with the comic books this time, but he has definitely helped with the comics in the past.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, I have a few. But, yeah, I mean, and I think, did I tell the podcast that I got a copy of Adventure Comics 247 recently? Yeah, I finally bought it. So, yeah, I finally broke out the cash and bought a copy.
Dang.
I need to grade it now and put it in a tomb.
Are you serious?
Make Anne very happy. Yeah.
Gross.
I don't know. You're saying gross, but when you spend that much money on a book,
yeah, I know. I mean, I you do what you want to do. I understand why people do it, and and everybody does what they do. It's their prerogative. It's not my thing.
I'd mostly be doing it to protect the book.
Yeah,
right?
And I get it. I get it. I'm of the other camp. I like to just grab the top of the box, flip it open, and peruse my books whenever I want to.
I know. I don't know. I'll think about it. I haven't done it yet. No.
I get it. I had somebody call the shop the other day and asked if we did grading, and I was like, we don't do that. Do you know who does? I'm like, go online.
You know what's really cool, though? Sitting in front of that book right now, protecting it from the sublight, is a promotional poster for Legion of Superheroes 293.
Oh, that's cool.
With the cover, yeah. So, So the books, yeah. Anyway, so not that I'm in a better mood when looking about that.
That's nice.
Well, we should wrap this up. Yeah, we should probably wrap this up. And so I guess since we already promoted the fact that you'll turn into a zombie by buying
Absolute Zero's camouflage pad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you show up at the Retro Emporium in Kent, Washington, you might see Greg.
It's true. You might. I am there some days, sometimes. I was there this weekend, and a lot of folks came in. It's actually kind of funny because like I don't realize how many people do come in to hang out and talk to me. So it is nice.
So there you go. So you could go see Greg. I could go see Greg. That would be nice for me to do. I never do that.
I mean, it'd be a treat.
Of course, he could come here too.
True.
But
I could come down that way and hang out with you over at Jiu-Jitsu Lawyer Paul's dojo. Dojo? Is it a dojo?
Or Destiny City Comics or Comics the Gathering, who has a brand new location in Lakewood here, opening soon. So that's we have a couple of awesome comic book stores down here in Tacoma.
You do. We could go hit the shops down there and see what they have in their boxes and see what I could buy for myself that I don't need.
We could hit Gabby's place in Olympia too.
Oh my gosh.
We're doing that.
I have to go see Mom.
But I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. So I guess that's what we'll promote today. Go to your local comic shop.
Go see those folks.
Go meet people and learn about stuff.
Wherever you live, you've got one. Go hit your LCS because they got the new books, they got the old books. If you got a comic book, if you have a box that they're pulling books for you, go buy your books. It's not a rental space for you to hang your books out in until you can go pick them up. Pick them up today.
Yeah, it is. What are you talking about?
No, it's not. They need you to come pick up your books.
You should buy the things. Oh, yeah, well, you should buy them so you can read them. But make sure you don't buy too many like I do.
That's true. But I mean, you should go pick up some books, pick up some new books. Go see what they're telling you that you should go pick up because they might have some good suggestions. There might be a new book that you never heard of.
You mean if you talk to people that read comic books, they might know about comic books to recommend?
They might know. What? They might have a good recommendation. I remember back when Saga came out and it was a new book that no one they didn't know what it was, and the nice ladies over at Fantasium. It's not a store anymore. It's a store. They changed it to Milgard. They sold the store, but Paula was like, "You should check it out," and I was like, "All right, I'll check it out." And gosh darn it, she hooked me. She.
You know what's amazing?
What?
You know what's amazing? Like, your friend told you to check out Saga, but my friend didn't.
Ah, your friend did not. Who, me? Oh, shut up.
Yeah. It's like my friend doesn't remember a lot of things about me.
Gosh darn it, Dan.
I see how it is.
I am sorry. I am so sorry. I have dropped the ball too many times.
The best part of this is nobody knows. Nobody knows any idea why I'm mad at you.
You're mad at me for
You know what? We're going to leave. That's going to be like the Reflecto saga, which we didn't read. Yeah. You're never going to know what happens because it's such a bad story. We're not going to tell it. So.
Why is Dan mad at Greg? What did he do this time?
Well, it's most of the time. So anyway, on that note, we should wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up because, people are... It's hilarious hilarity.
Now Greg's getting mad. That's the best part. I love it when I cross the line and then Greg starts getting mad. I always have to go that one step too far.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Captain America falling into a whole bunch of crystal meth. Well, just one step too far and you fall off that building.
You know what I was asked yesterday? I was asked...
And then you're in the streets of poison.
When we were going to cover Capwolf yesterday, I was asked yesterday when I was playing some D&D when we were going to cover Capwolf. So...
Well, I can just tell you that, you can tell our one listener that asked you that that they're gonna have to wait until I'm done having fun with the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, so
and
okay,
I know,
everybody, you heard that. As soon as we're done with Legion of Superheroes, Capwolf is on the table. All right, that's
is not what I said.
So
I don't think that's what I said at all.
That's what you said. As soon as you're done with Legion of Superheroes,
what I said is if you buy Absolute Zero's Camp Watchpad, you're going to turn into a zombie and get an MXPX CD. MXPX, the favorite music of the zombies
from Pemberton, Washington. Oh my gosh!
So if you were a zombie, MXPX is your jam.
Oh my goodness, Dan.
That's how it works. I mean, I can't believe you didn't know that.
I didn't know that. It's going to be in my Facebook feed forever.
That is awesome. I'm going to keep talking about it then.
I honestly, it'd blow my mind if I go to a local convention here and one of the fine boys from MXPX shows up and it's like, I hear you like us.
Well, good news is that you two play our podcast, get MXPX in your feed, listen, and by listening to MXPX, you can become a zombie.
There you go.
So, the music fit for zombies. All right, well, on that note, we should wrap this bad boy up. So, or girl, or non-binary podcast.
Yep, because it could be anything.
This definitely was something.
Was something.
And
if
anything.
It's a Legion,
so,
if it's a Legion podcast, we just don't know.
It was. So, we appreciate you and come back and listen to more Funny Book Forensics. We'll be back next time with some Legion of Superheroes 287. We're inching toward that prologue to darkness. Ooh. What could that be about? I don't know. Spoilers from 1982. Ready?
What?
All right. Bye, Greg.
Bye, Dan. I'm going to hit the button. I almost hung up on you.
Yep. You should hit the button now. Button. All right. You hit the stop. Hit the stop.
Okay. All right, I'm hitting the button. Oh, wrong button.